About half the 70 countries participating in IEA's TIMSS 2019 transitioned to computer-based assessment, opening the door for TIMSS to build on its rich tradition of innovation in educational assessment. The eTIMSS countries were instrumental in working with TIMSS and Pearls International Studies Center at Boston College to develop 8 engaging and innovative assessment tasks, 4 in mathematics and 4 in science. Data collection included 30 countries and 6 benchmarking systems, with about 22,000 students at the 4th grade, and 22 countries and 5 benchmarking systems, with about 20,000 students at the 8th grade. The recently released research report, Findings from the TIMSS 2019 Problem Solving and Inquiry Tasks, describes some strengths and weaknesses of innovative efforts to assess students and capture their responses based on 4 of the tasks. The other tasks will be reassessed in 2023 to measure trends. School Party assessed mathematics at the 4th grade. Students plan a party for their school, including ticket sales, decorations, food, and drinks. To engage students, the task is colorful and has some interactive features. One of the most successful items asked students to complete a pie chart based on data in a table about students' favorite fruits. Achievement was high, 65% on average across countries, reaching 90% in Hong Kong SAR. Students seemed to like the autofill feature, using it multiple times. The slider tool on the number line was less successful in capturing students' responses, but illustrated 2 important lessons. Although 71% did not leave the yellow arrow at the correct answer of 5, the process data revealed that students were perfectly able to move the slider back and forth. So, lesson number 1, students need to understand the purpose of the tool. Lesson number 2, do not use items that depend on students having correctly answered earlier items. Confusion about the number line slider in the first item impeded students in correctly solving the second item about how much the drinks cost. Farm Investigation assessed science at the 4th grade. Situated in life science content, the task required students to help a boy investigate which farm animal ate the plants in his garden. This provided several opportunities for assessing practices of scientific inquiry. First, the boy finds footprints from 4 animals in his garden. Students were asked to measure the length of the footprints in centimeters, with 59% on average completing correct measurements of all 4 footprints. To identify the animals that made the footprints, students were given an Animal Finder app consisting of a binary decision tree. The size of footprints was combined with information about other characteristics, such as presence of toes or skin between the toes. More than half of the students, 54% on average, correctly identified all 4 animals as cow, chicken, dog, and goat. Next, the boy discovers an animal hair in his garden and thinks it belongs to the culprit. The students look at it under a microscope, adjusting the microscope to make the hair as clear as possible. 61% of the students, on average across countries, correctly focused the microscope. 2/3, 66% on average, correctly focused the microscope twice more to compare the hair to a cow hair and a goat hair. The analyses of the hair revealed that the cow ate the plants. In the building task assessing mathematics, 8th grade students virtually construct a storage shed with a rain barrel. The diagram of the building rotates in 3 dimensions and has tabs illustrating different parts of the building to help students visualize geometric figures and calculate dimensions of lengths, areas, and volumes. At one point, students are presented with a 14-meter by 14-meter board marked with a grid and asked to draw where to cut the 3 pieces for the back wall and the 2 side walls. Only 26% of the students on average correctly fit all 3 walls onto the board. The 3 pieces fit with extra board left over, but calculating the dimensions of the sidewalls did require recognizing that one sidewall was comprised of a square combined with a right-angle triangle, and of course that there were 2 sidewalls. Pepper Plants asked 8th grade students to design and analyze the results of a science experiment, comparing the effect of 2 different fertilizers on pepper production. Innovative response interaction spaces enabled students to control the amounts of the 2 different fertilizers and water supplied to each of 3 growth tanks containing the same number of pepper plant seedlings. Across countries, 43% of students, on average, applied the fertilizer correctly by adding the same amount of each of the 2 different fertilizer to tanks 1 and 2, respectively. However, only 15 managed this while also correctly choosing not to add fertilizer to the 3rd tank as a control. Across countries, on average, 35% of the students correctly supplied the same amount of water to each tank. If students did not water the plants in the control tank, the plants withered and die. Pepper plants hit the right note in terms of student engagement and item difficulty. The results indicate that 8th grade students have a reasonable grasp of the idea of an experiment as a fair test, but much less understanding of an effective experiment control. Computer-based assessment in 2019 also made it possible to collect valuable process data about how students proceeded through the assessment sessions, including data on timing, navigation from screen to screen, scrolling, and the use of number pads. The timing data helped distinguish between students who ran out of time and those who stopped responding before time was up, although learning why students stopped early requires considerably more research. Much was learned from this initial innovative effort, and future assessment specialists looking back in time will recognize the TIMSS 2019 transition to digital assessment as the beginning of a sea change in capitalizing on technology to improve assessment measures and efficiency. This video presents information about the findings from the TIMSS 2019 problem-solving and inquiry tasks. To find more about the TIMSS 2019 international results, visit the TIMSS and PEARLS website.